Hello, everybody. My name is Zaire Ali, and I am the founder and executive director of the Urban Health Collaborative. And tonight, myself and Georgina Duker, one of our interns, will be talking about mental health hygiene, and we'll be going over depressive disorders. So thank you all for coming here live and whoever is watching it virtually. So, a little about me. So like I said, I'm Zaire Ali. I'm the executive director of the Open Collaborative from Plainfield, New Jersey. I have a master's degree in public health and education, and my background is in children, youth, and families, and also urban education systems climate.
Hi, everyone. My name is Georgina Duker, and I am the intern at the Urban Health Collaborative. I am a Rutgers University student. Right now, I'm a senior, and I'm majoring in psychology, and my minor is theater. So I'll pass it back to Zaire.
Thanks, Georgina. Okay, so just, for those of you who are new to us, who are we? We are the Urban Health Collaborative, and in short, our mission is to shift mindsets and help the world believe in a better place. And the way we do that, we try to collaborate with state, local, and national partners to just really help bridge the gap between healthcare and education. And our goal is to lessen the burden of health disparities in urban communities. The Urban Health Collaborative also strives to improve the overall health and well-being of all youth and their families living in northern New Jersey. And I'm from New Jersey myself. So I'm from Plainfield, and I've seen a lot of atrocities within my own community. And, I've seen a lot of things around New Jersey that I feel like, we could change and, prevent. So, the goal of the Urban Health Collaborative is to just really help communities to learn new skills and teach them how to use them in just their daily lives to help better preserve their mental and physical health, and to also prevent mental illness, chronic disease, comorbidities, and to learn how to better empathize with people in their everyday lives, regardless of race, gender, and identity. And that's just really important, because we know, like, ever since the inception of the coronavirus, there's been a lot of race-based, crimes and just a lot of not nice stuff going around. So hopefully just learning some mental health hygiene and, our overall goal is just to really just make the landscape of things better and to just, help increase interactions and just make people treat each other better.
Okay, so I'll just quickly go over the agenda for what we're going to talk about. So we'll be talking about the definition of mental health, and we'll get into some things that can affect your mental health, what can happen when we neglect our mental health. And then we will talk about a new term called mental health hygiene. And then we'll talk about the benefits of mental health hygiene. And then at the end, questions and answers if possible.
And we just want to say, because we have a small group today, throughout the presentation, if anybody has questions, you could just type them in the chat or just, put your hand up and then we can answer. Because it's a small crowd, we could do that today. So thank you. And Georgina is going to get us.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. So first, just a definition of mental health. It's simply considered as our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. So it's looking at the individual as an entire person and not just one facet of a person. And some things that our mental health can really have an impact on includes our behaviors, the way that we handle stress and problems in our lives. And it's also important to realize that mental health is important at every stage of your life. So there might be misconceptions where people associate it with like older people, but mental health is really prevalent for everyone. And just here we have some stats about depression in individuals in the United States, and we're specifically looking at people over 18 years old. So these numbers are a little bit jarring. Like the first stat here, it says 19.4 million adults in the United States have at least one major depressive episode. And at 7.8% of all US adults, that's a pretty big number because that's a lot of people. Specifically when we're talking about different genders, not all genders are represented, but in terms of sex, adult females had a prevalence of 9.6% compared to 6% for males. And the prevalence of a depressive episode was highest among people who report having multiple races. So thinking about people who, might be Black and white or just like a mix of other races, they were at higher, risk of having a major depressive episode. And then looking at some things that we can do or some things that we can control are our perceptions towards mental health. So you can try to control the way that you think about events that happen in your life, as these can these can help reduce negative symptoms. So some things that we may have control over is exercising, running or walking, whatever you can do, finding different ways to think about problems that you're facing, and also leaning on your support group. There we go. So sustaining old support networks and also finding new people to help you out if possible.
And I just want to just add a little tidbit in there. As like the last part, like Georgina said, networking and just sustaining relationships. A lot of times through our life, at different age groups and different milestones, we see people, we leave people, some people move, some people pass away, unfortunately. So it's really important to just really keep, what's important to us in our culture and just personally, because a lot of times those networks are connected. So just trying to sustain those relationships and keep, those connections alive and keep everyone happy within yourself is really important.
So we're just going to get into a little bit more, definitions or descriptions. So when we talk about characteristics of people who might be at risk for depression. And these include people that may be, sorry, I don't know if there's something just popped up. Can you see the chat? I can't see.
Yes, I'm going to respond to the question.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So for low income, according to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, poverty is a big factor when it comes to risk for depression, because food insecurity, housing insecurity, income insecurity obviously causes like a lot of distress for people, especially with the pandemic and not most people, but a lot of people losing their jobs. These can all add to the risk of mental health problems. And specific characterizations, when we think of people in low income neighborhoods, they might not have enough resources. They might have an inadequate school system. And these are all things that are associated with poor mental health outcomes, unfortunately. And then there's just a paraphrase quote here at the end that says, economic status is the most powerful predictor of depression. Yep. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is lack of social support. And it says here, social isolation and loneliness also deeply impact executive function. And executive function is basically your ability to think about more complex things. So this would go into your ability to deal with stressors in your life and how that you think about things. And so social isolation can really affect this very important part of your cognition. And executive function is also directly related to the quality of life. Next, we have lack of cognitive stimulation. And this is basically saying that if people don't have access to mentally stimulating activities and different ways to think and grow, then it can really affect their risk for depression. So, one example that is here is the education level, and it says that education level enhances cognitive abilities, not just in old age people, but in everyone, and being able to participate in activities that are stimulating for your cognition can greatly reduce the risk for depression and anxiety. And just some simple examples at the end: playing cards, chess, really cognitively stimulating, instruments, reading, and just learning new things and finding different ways to use your brain. And then another factor to think about is physical health. And I don't think it's a new phenomenon because physical health is very important for our lives. And it says here that it has very strong effects on cognitive function. And it is also one of the major variables in a person's chances of depression. Also, the presence of debilitating physical conditions has been shown to be correlated with higher levels of mental distress, which makes sense. If someone's dealing with a lot of different illnesses or physical conditions, that greatly affects, their mental health and their ability to just live a normal life because they have to worry about all these other illnesses that they are facing. And at the end here, it says specialized programs that aim to improve the well-being of individuals are very necessary.
And before we move on to low Social Security, just thinking about, some of the specialized programs, right? You look at the YMCA, you look at some of our insurances, because I know some of the people I've worked with in the past, they might have Medicaid and Medicare, and there's a lot of programs on there that are really to help the people who have those certain insurances to prevent, illnesses and to really just maintain their level of health. If they're at a good level of health, these type of programs are there to just increase that and help those folks and help their health levels either maintain or improve. And if you're at a lower level of health, a lot of times there's programs that have that are interventions to really, let's say you have diabetes, gout, or let's say a heart condition. There's specialized programs that are there for you with your conditions that are there to try to teach you about your condition to help prevent it from, increasing or, worsening your quality of life. So there's a lot of local things that we can tap into that we might not know about. So, just for if there's any resources that you might need to know or just any better understanding of local resources or programs, you can reach out to us because we do a lot of in the work in the community and we have a lot of insight and connections to different organizations. So that's just a plug for anyone who's watching. Okay, so you can continue, Georgina.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were taking it. Yeah, so the next thing that we're talking about is low food insecurity. And just some important facts to highlight here that I thought was very important was some research that was done about the association of anxiety and depression to food insecurity. And it's just saying that a higher level of food insecurity is associated with very high levels of anxiety and depression, which makes sense because then people have to worry about how they're going to feed themselves, if they have families, if they are qualifying for food stamps. Even with the pandemic, not a lot of people were able to qualify for the stimulus checks. So I know that was something that was probably very um, important and probably led to higher levels of anxiety. And then the next thing that's important is just looking at different races and how they're affected by food insecurity. Here, 19.1% of Black households and 15.6% of Hispanic households experience food insecurity just in 2019, compared to white Americans who experienced about 7.9% of food insecurity.
And that's just a perfect segue, I would say, into another aspect that contributes to mental health illness and depression is just the burden of social disparities. So when you're looking at just everyday life, like people are impacted and they deal with a lot of trauma and anxiety just because of the way they look, the accent they might have, or some of the food they might enjoy. So we're just going to, go in a little bit about that and just talk about some other ways to hopefully, counteract this. So just according to the National Institute of Health, or the NIH, as we might see, the perception of depression is significantly higher for African Americans, just making major depression is considered a chronic disorder for the population due to the larger exposure to the community and domestic violence. African Americans have higher risk for depression, comorbidities such as substance abuse, generalized anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and a lot of other mood disorders. And you also have to just think about the location of a lot of the atrocities and just some determinants, that are prevalent in communities. So you see, lack of resources, you see limited access to healthcare providers. And you have to say quality healthcare service providers, low health literacy levels, and all of this really just leads to increased health disparities in urban ecosystems, because when you see the lack of social support and the multi-systems of support for people who need it, or for folks who are just dealing with a lot, you see them struggle. You see a lot of people implode, and it just breeds a really bad environment and a poor climate, and it makes it difficult for people to thrive and to really see a brighter day. And also when you think about this, like I said, you have racial disparities, and you also have people who are discriminated by age. And we've seen that a lot of age discrimination and racial discrimination is associated with anxiety, depression, lower self-esteem, high blood pressure, and just even poor performance in tests. So like you might be taking tests in school, or driver's test, or just a basic knowledge test. Having these social disparities and just having all these factors pinned against you can really have an impact, because you internalize that. You internalize your feelings. You hear these narratives about who you are, and you start to believe them because nothing else is being said about you in a positive way. So when there's this level of negativity that's being spewed into you, and people are just telling you these false narratives about yourself, it's really hard to see anything different than what you're being told there. So, just taking us a little farther, right? We were talking about some of the factors that contribute to mental health and depression. So we just want to take it a little step further, and what happens when we neglect our mental health. So, and if you were here last time, this might be just a little refresher. But if you weren't, mood stability, Instability means going to have sleep disturbances, decrease in productivity, increase in relationships. That could be with your friends, at work, at home, your family. Decrease of cognitive functioning, meaning even if you're driving, if you're feeling really depressed or sad, or your mental health is going bad, you might have a higher increase of getting in an accident or having a moving violation. So all these things taking really impact our daily life. And we also, when we look at the mental health, the obvious, right? We have an increased risk of developing mental illness. So, and what can affect your mental health? As we went over, income, cognitive abilities, your cognitive activity, social supports around you, your physical health, your diet, and social inequality. So we're just going to, go into mental health hygiene as a tool to help alleviate and counteract mental health issues, and right now depression. So we're going to really just talk about ways and techniques to help daily, but also to help counteract depression and depressive symptoms. So mental health hygiene is essentially all activities and techniques to maintain mental health and assist in preventing development of mental illnesses and other comorbidities. So we're going to go over some examples of daily mental health hygiene. So sleep, right? Regular sleep schedule is essential, and it's really important because the length of sleep and the duration of it isn't always what's important. Having a regular schedule is important, because when you have a regular schedule, your body gets regulated, your mood is regulated, and when you have a proper sleep schedule, it also just makes us become better thinkers. It helps our memory, and it helps us to learn daily in our daily lives. And our emotions just get better. They become more stable, and they become, as a whole, we become grounded. And a lot of times, we don't understand mental health, or we don't understand stigma, or we don't even understand some of the components that go into mental health. So having a regular sleep schedule can also help prevent some mental health problems, like depressive moods and a lot of anxiety. And it can also lower your risk for developing, just diabetes, heart disease, because when our body is regulated, we become in sync with the world around us. We start creating synergy between our mind, body, and soul. And when you start to know your body better than you know the back of your hand, it's easy to call things out that aren't in place, that don't feel right per se. And another thing that helps is meditation. Helps lower our blood pressure. It helps decrease stress and anxiety. Helps increase our focus and our mental capacity. Helps improve our mood, and it also helps increase our imagination and creativity. Exercise is also another important factor, and another routine that you would add to your daily routine, your daily mental health hygiene routine, because exercise helps improve mental health, helps reduce anxiety, depression, and it also helps us get rid of negative ideas and viewpoints that we have of ourselves and others. Because when we exercise a lot, our body releases dopamine. We start to get stronger, and we start to get more confident, and we just feel happy. Our thinking improves, our memory improves. There's a lot of benefits for exercise other than physical. Eating well is another factor that you know about, because eating well sometimes goes with diet, but eating well also impacts our mental. When we eliminate a lot of processed sugars foods, when we introduce whole foods, when we introduce fruit and vegetables into our diet, good fatty acids, and just really dark leafy vegetables and really I would say fruity fruit, it improves our functioning. We we don't realize that if we have a poor diet, a lot of what we feel can either be worsened or improved. So just really keeping track of your diet and trying to be cognizant of what you're putting in to your body can help. And being social and getting your rest, um, you can't really replace those because being social, it could be used as two parts. If I'm social with a group of friends, it could be a kind of rest or relax from the normal world. Because if I have a solid, group of friends or a solid social group, or just even a solid group of associates that I work with, it could help take my mind off of a lot of negativity because it could distract me. It could give me a sense of just worth, because if I have a group of friends who enjoy my time, who enjoy being around me, and it's a mutual relationship, what can you what's going to beat that? What's better than to be around people who stimulate you cognitively, but also, give you that social stimulation that you as an individual, but we as humans pretty much yearn for because I don't know about you all, but if I could interact with, my partner or my friends or just people I see every day, my quality of life wouldn't be the same because I kind of yearn off of that. I kind of function off of other folks' interactions and their energies, well, their positive energies. And like we said, resting. Resting is important. We just make time to fit into your schedule to just care about yourself, to really just take time for you to get your week in order, to even get your day in order. Because when we look at rest, a lot of times people think about rest and sleep as one, but it's not. I could be I could be running a marathon and resting, right? I might not be resting physically, but figuratively and mentally, I'm resting. I'm giving my brain time to unwind. I'm giving my body time to heal, and I'm giving my soul time just to be and figure out world and figure out the world because life life is new and mental health is new for a lot of us and trying to navigate our mental health and just trying to understand and operationalize mental health and our well-being is is very difficult, and especially if we weren't taught about it early on in our life, or if it wasn't incorporated into our daily routine. It's going to be new. It's going to be hard, and it's going to be it's going to be a challenge because if you're young and you're introduced to mental health or your mental health hygiene, it might not be in a place of positivity. It might be like event based. But when you're older, it might be even more difficult because you already have your routine, you already have your life. You might have your job, you might have kids, you might understand or you think you understand yourself. But then when you sit down and to try to understand your mind and understand how that works, it can take you for a loop because our mind, we're still understanding it. Researchers are still trying to better understand how the mind works, how the brain works. So it's never ending. So the most important thing I would say when it comes to mental health, depression or anything around that is just being a student and being kind to yourself. Because if you're hard on yourself, it's going to be difficult for you to improve, to digest the information. And we all mess up. We all mess up at the end of the day. So it's almost imperative to be a student of your health, mental health, and physical health, because every day there's new advancement. Every day there's a new publication or a new story about, oh, ways to improve your health, ways to improve your cognitive functioning, right? So just coming to workshops like this, talking to people, and just doing your due diligence to discern between what's fact and fiction and apply it to your life is what's important. Because what I do in my daily life might be different than what Georgina does or Karina does or what Miss Vicky does. We all are different. I'm not the same as if I had a twin, I wouldn't be the same as them. So we have to remember that, and we have to be, like I said, be kind to ourselves and just really take life day by day, bit by bit, because it could come fast, it could come slow. But the only thing that's guaranteed is the present, because tomorrow isn't guaranteed, and yesterday already happened. So staying present and just being your best self at that moment is all we can do as a human to, try to maintain our mental health, our physical health, and just enjoy life best way we can. So, are there any follow-up questions? I know, Ms. Nikki, I tried to answer your question during the presentation, but did I do a good job, or do you have any follow-up about your question in the chat?
Well, you did an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing I wanted to add, which resonated with me when you went over stressors, even being like an African American in the workforce. At one point, I worked for a large pharmaceutical company, and they were under a mandate to increase their minority work population. And after 15 months, I had to get out of there. I see why minorities didn't stay there. And that was a stressor. That was the stressor to think, soon as I walked through the door, a lot of my work was judged on the color of my skin. Even though I had been in the workforce for many years. So it was a good career move when I had changed jobs.
That's very unfortunate.
Yeah, it really is. I was actually writing a letter because there is a person on the board of directors of color there. And I just wanted to share with him my experience working for them. And when I had came to the company, I had previously worked for another employer for 25 years. So I had been in the workforce for a while. And it kind of threw me for a loop when I walked into that.
If you don't mind, we know this is public. If you don't mind, not sharing too much detail, how or could you just go over an experience or an interaction that made you feel uneasy or not made you feel nice?
Yes.
Your employer?
Yes. I worked in a payroll department, so it's high stress. Everything was needed yesterday, and we're always working on a deadline because employees have to be paid. So we were paying about 40,000 employees, and we would have a series of meetings. We were in payroll, so we would have meetings with the finance department, and we have meetings with the different HR departments. Well, my direct supervisor was really rough around their edges. And she was always very nasty, this. So we had a meeting, and that was fine. We had a meeting with another group. Now, this Black woman demonstrated the same kind of unprofessionalism, but not to the degree of my direct supervisor. And immediately after the meeting, they called her boss. They did this and that. And I said, but excuse me, this is half of what so-and-so does all the time. And they looked at me like I had three heads. They didn't see it like I saw it. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? The only difference is the color of their skin. And when my supervisor would rub people the wrong way, they would go to her direct supervisor. But when this other Black young lady rubbed people the wrong way. They went to the VP. Like, that was not to be tolerated. That was not to be tolerated. And when I was there, like I said, I came in with the 25 years experience, and I had worked for the payroll vendor. So I knew a lot of things. And I said, this is ridiculous. We need help here. So finally, it got so bad, I got off my buns and got another job. End up making $20,000 more. And now my position, 3 people are in it. But when I was saying it, it wasn't ringing true. And you know what? That probably would have went over my head if I was a recent college grad or if I was in my 20s and 30s. But no, I had kids in my 20s and 30s. Mm. So you're not going to do that magic show with me.
Wow.
But to see it happening, I always read about it, but to see the blatant racism, at one point, we had a gathering and we were all going around the table saying, oh, what's your favorite donut? I was like, oh, I love jelly donuts. So when it got to Luis, she says, well, what's your favorite donut? And he goes, oh, I like the chocolate frosted. She goes, with chicharrones on top? What? Are you crazy? And then one morning we had a meeting. She said, let's all go around the table and say good morning in our native language. So when it got to me, I said, well, I don't know. My ancestors were taken from the western side of Africa and brought over here. So I cannot say good morning in my native language. So people are going by, well, I'm Greek. I say good morning like this. I'm Italian. She goes, well, I'm Polish. And I say good morning like this. Well, Vicky, how do you say good morning? Are you kidding me? Did you just fall from the sky? But this is corporate America. And I tell my kids, you will see this, but make sure you handle it right. Because if you don't handle it right, they will make your life miserable and you won't get a good recommendation. So you can't just be flipping out. Watch how you handle it. And once you get out that door, then you start letting people know, you know what's going on here? And when I complained to the HR department, she had already called my supervisor before I got upstairs to sit down in my chair. So that was a waste. But please don't tell me how I say good morning in my native language. But yes, this is what's out there. And I'm not bragging, but I do make over 6 figures. Not over 6 figures. I'm within the 6-figure range. So this is not entry level. But this is the nonsense that goes on. So I try to warn my kids. I warn them. And I said, don't let their opinion of you become your reality. And I say it all the time. And I say it to my son. He's in Canada right now. Things are actually better over there, but I let him know, Dalton, it's not going to be easy. People will judge you. Stay calm and make sure you're moving in the right direction. But don't let their opinion of you become your reality, because that's all it is, their opinion.